Greetings everyone. Wow, has it ever taken a long time to get around to doing this review? I do apologize to those of you who have been waiting for what seems like forever for me to review this set. So yeah, maybe we'll do a little addendum to the review and I'll explain the whole story as to why it's taken so long. It wasn't just me sitting on my ass doing nothing, but yeah. Anyway, without any further ado, let's get into it, shall we? This, of course, is the Transformers 25th Anniversary Matrix of Leadership Complete Series Collection. Quite a mouthful of a title. Try saying that 5 times fast. How am I going to cram that into the video title? Transformers Matrix set? 25th Anniversary set? I don't know. We'll figure something out. Anyway, as is often the case when I do these big, long, multi-part, in-depth reviews, before we talk about the now, let's talk about the then. Yes, behind me you will see all that remains of my Transformers VHS collection. So I thought, hey, wouldn't it be nice to do what I've done with some of my other in-depth reviews and give you a little bit of backstory about the history of the Transformers on home video, at least as far as I personally have experienced it. Plus there's a few little personal asides that relate to it that I thought you might find interesting. So that's what we're going to talk about today on the Multimedia Chronicles. Welcome back. Well, we'll just put this away for now, and we'll come back to it later. So here we have all that remains of my Transformers VHS collection. Honestly, this is pretty much most of what I've had over the years. There was a few additional volumes that I sold back in the day, but for the most part, the collection is as intact as it's ever been. So, how many of you are kind of curious as to how I got into collecting home video stuff? A few of you? Nice. I see a few hands raised there. Well, the Transformers is ground zero for my video collection. And this is one of the reasons why I've kept this particular collection, because it definitely holds some nostalgic value for me. As you can see, this is all the original big box versions that Family Home Entertainment put out in the mid-'80s. These were being put out while the show was still on the air. This is how old these are. These all came out in between 1985 and 86. So, and they all contain first season episodes. And then on top, we have some of the Canadian clamshell releases, which were released in the 90s. And then finally, we've got several of the VHS volumes that Rhino put out prior to doing their DVD releases. The cool thing about the VHS volumes is they're actually from the original broadcast masters. They're not from the incomplete work prints that they used for their DVD editions. And they don't have remixed audio. So the VHS editions that Rhino put out are actually correct and are actually the show as it was originally broadcast. So I know there was a lot of complaints about how they handled the DVD versions. Well, the VHS versions are the way the show was originally seen. So if you want fairly recent releases of the original broadcast versions, but in VHS quality sadly, you can get the VHS versions. I'll give you a closer look at all these in just a minute. I just kind of wanted to give you a quick overview. The Canadian releases on top here, we got 3 volumes which contain 3 episodes apiece, once again all from the first season. And then you've got 2 volumes here of Transformers Generation 2, which was the, when did that come out? Late 80s, early 90s. They basically re-released the original cartoon on television to tie in with the new toy line, which was essentially just repaints of a bunch of the Generation 1 toys. But the show was not actually a new show, it was just the original show with a new title sequence and elaborate CG wipes and dissolves and transitions between scenes. A lot of fans really saw it as a butchering of the original series. Yeah, and they didn't even do all 98 episodes either. They basically just picked 65 random episodes and then slapped all these new effects on them. I think the general consensus amongst fans was like, well, why don't they just put the original show back on the air? Why are they butchering the classic series like this? What is the point to this? Anyway, as an aside, however, there was also a Generation 2 comic book which apparently was amazing. I used to have the first issue. I don't think I do anymore. My Transformers comic collection is really dwindled over the years. I've kind of been favoring the reprints over the originals because they're cheaper and they take up less shelf space. But back to the VHS releases. Now in the mid-80s, of course, I was a kid. My only means of income was my allowance. It stretched my allowance enough collecting comic books at the time, which I collected quite heavily. So when I saw they were putting Transformers out on VHS, I was just overjoyed. I was like, oh, awesome. Because I had been taping the show off of TV. One of the very first shows I taped on a regular basis, actually. But I was recording it on an old lo-fi mono VCR. I mean, it's a mono show anyway, but lo-fi sound versus hi-fi sound, I mean, it's like night and day. And of course I was recording in EP mode so I could fit 6 hours of Transformers cartoons on a single tape, and needless to say, the quality leaves much to be desired. And I was cutting out the commercials as I went too, so EP mode VHS editing is rough, to say the least. I actually do still have that tape somewhere in my library. I should dig it out and take a look at it one of these days. So anyway, when I saw that they were actually releasing the Transformers on VHS, I was overjoyed. I was like, oh my god, I can have episodes of the show in perfect quality, in really cool packaging. That was really exciting to me. You have to understand, this was like 1985. The whole home video industry was still in its infancy. The whole concept of putting TV shows out on home video was right out there. So this really is a testament to just how huge a hit Transformers was at the time. I mean, cartoons never got full releases, ever. So this was a big deal. So they were putting out almost every single episode of the first season of the Transformers in these VHS volumes. Now, it's not like today where you just plunk down $30 to get a season set. Oh no, no. You know how much these went for? Let's take a look at the original comic book ads that were posted in the comics at the time to advertise these VHS releases. So to test the waters initially, they put out 2 volumes, each one containing 3 episodes apiece. How much did those go for? $24.95. I should mention that's US. Here in Canada, they went for about $30. So $30 for 3 episodes. What a deal! That's only $10 an episode. Score! Well, I gather those volumes did really well because about less than 6 months later they put out another 5 volumes along with another 5 volumes of G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe was being released concurrently with Transformers. And how much did those go for? $14.95 a volume. Again, that's US price. So here in Canada they were about $20 a piece. How many episodes were on those volumes? 1. That's right. You got 1 episode per tape. All of these, except for the first 2 volumes, are 1 episode per tape. Imagine how much shelf space a season would take up, especially in these big box packages. A lot. So now, let's take a closer look at all of these, because I'm sure you're dying to get a closer look at the packaging and check out all the cool artwork on these retro VHS releases. So let's take a look. Just move this over. Okay, so let's move these here. Alrighty. So first off, the thing I really liked about these is they were done in sort of comic book style, which was something that I personally really responded to at the time, because my introduction to Transformers primarily was the original comic book. So the fact that they were doing this in comic book style, for me, was perfect. Because it was kind of like, oh cool, it's like the comic and the show, and then the show is being done like the comic, but the comic's different from the show, and it just blew my mind. So check this out. So we have, this is the first volume, More Than Meets the Eye, which of course is the original 3-part miniseries. And then, and I'll put the high-res scans here for you. These are a pain in the ass to scan, by the way, because some of the boxes are kind of indented, so I had to like fill them out and stuff to make the scans look better. And then on the back, you got this cool comic book, which kind of sets up the story. Now the thing about these particular releases, and one thing that they're sort of notorious for, is there seems to be this real fear of having it appear like it would on television. And what I mean by that is, you know how normally you get a TV show on DVD release or whatever, and they'll leave in the fades to and from commercials. Well, on these releases put out by Family Home Entertainment, they must have had some real hyperactive editor who went out of his way to try to make them as movie-like as possible. It's like, no, we have to hide the fact that these were ever on television and had commercial breaks. So they would cut the fades at the commercial points. They also would cut out the titles in between episodes for the multi-parters and present them all as a movie. Now, it's not bad doing that. I mean, for example, on the Shout Factory set, they give you that option. However, the difference is with the Shout Factory set, they leave all the commercial bumpers and everything fully intact, so it is completely uncut. And then you have the option, via seamless branching, to watch the episodes in their original episodic form with the recaps and next episode previews and all that good stuff. So it's pretty cool. But with Family Home Entertainment, you got the movie version, and that was it. But at the time, we didn't really care because it's all that was available. And for me, it was just wonderful enough to have the episodes in near perfect quality. So moving right along, with Volume 1, they also put out Volume 2, which was the other three-part story, The Ultimate Doom. Again, done in movie format and with the commercial breaks very spastically cut out. So we'll put that there. And then, this kind of annoyed me because I'm a big continuity freak. I didn't mind that they did this with Volumes 1 and 2. I could kind of understand why they did that even when I was 13 years old. I got why they did that. It was just to make the first two volumes more kind of bigger value and a bigger draw because they had more episodes on them. But then with Volume 3, they skipped ahead several episodes to S.O.S. DINOBOTS, which is the introductory episode of the DINOBOTS. Now, okay, going by my original videos of the original airings, this was the 7th episode aired. They had More Than Meets the Eye, and then they had 3 episodes that kind of continued on from More Than Meets the Eye and were very tightly connected together. There was a very tight continuity with that second set of 3 episodes. And then the episode that immediately followed those was S.O.S. DINOBOTS. So to me, the Dinobots were always a part of that initial batch of characters. And then later on, they introduced Skyfire and the Constructicons, the Insecticons, and all those. So it's always bugged me that on every single video release, for some reason, which I have never been able to fathom, despite the fact that S.O.S. Dinobots aired first, everybody puts Fire in the Sky as the next episode, which was also Volume 4, not too coincidentally. Yeah, this is going to get overloaded really quick, so we're going to get a little creative with setting them on here. Yeah, but I distinctly remember Fire in the Sky aired way later, and my friends and I are really excited about it because I missed the episode, and I think my other best friend at the time missed the episode, fellow Transformers freak. So one of our friends had taped it, so we went over to their place to watch it, and we were like, oh my god, Skyfire is amazing, blah, blah, blah. So whenever I would do my own personal collection, like if I was putting these on a DVD or something, I would always put S.O.S. Dinobots first, and then I would pair it up with its sequel episode, War of the Dinobots. And then immediately following those two, I would put Fire in the Sky, and immediately follow that with its sequel episode, Fire on the Mountain. I even tried to urge Shout Factory to do it that way and explain my logic and reason for it, but I got quashed by the hardcore fans who were accustomed to it in the wrong order. Well, wrong to me anyway. It's a matter of personal preference. Honestly, the Dinobots and Jetfire, well, Jetfire was the toy, but the Dinobots and the Skyfire episodes really aren't too continuity sensitive, so honestly it doesn't really matter what order you put those particular ones in, because the Dinobots don't appear in the Skyfire episodes and Skyfire doesn't appear in the Dinobots episodes, so it really doesn't matter. But so for me it's a matter of personal preference. Then we have something odd. They went even more out of sequence in ways that just make no sense to anybody. Volume 5 is Divide and Conquer. Why is this odd? Because Divide and Conquer is the third of those 3 post-original miniseries continuity-heavy episodes that I was talking about. So you got More Than Meets the Eye and then 3 continuity-heavy episodes. This is the third of those continuity-heavy episodes. Then they have the second one. Roll for it. There you go. I don't know why I'm showing you this because, well, I guess just so you can see it in the context of the box. And then finally, you have the first of the 3 continuity-heavy episodes released last as Volume 7, Transport to Oblivion. Yeah, I guess that'll work. Okay. And then, so basically what they did was it should go transfer to Oblivion, roll forward, divide and conquer, but they released them in reverse order. Why did they do that? I have no idea. Especially since these volumes 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 were all part of the same batch. Why couldn't they just rearrange the order of those to correspond? Because technically, all 5 of these episodes go kind of in sequence. Whether you like the Skyfire one first or the Dinobots one first, you could put them all in sequence and still have them in that same batch of 5. You see what I mean? I don't know why they mucked up the numbering so much. Somebody was asleep at the switch on that one. And then volume 8, you have Fire on the Mountain, which is the shortly awaited return of Skyfire. And that's quite a good one. The rest of these I actually ended up getting used from a video store. The only ones I actually bought new were volumes 3 through 7, and volumes 1, 2, 8, 9, and 11. I'm missing volume 10. I got through some video stores. But in pretty nice condition. I mean, you can see that the covers aren't sun-faded or anything. It's really hard to find these big boxes in mint condition anyway. They tend not to stand the test of time, especially when they're rentals. And then finally, and that was, of course, War of the Dinobots, which was the second Dinobots episode, which introduced the last 2 Dinobots. I'm intimately familiar with the first season because it was one my friends and I watched over and over and over again. And then finally we have Volume 11, Countdown to Extinction. Now the interesting thing is, you see how they numbered that? Now that could be taken as 11 or the Roman numeral 2. And you know why that's interesting? Is because it's actually a direct follow-up to the Ultimate Doom, which they released as Volume 2. See, now that's a bit of cleverness, because there is a Volume 10. I don't have it, but here's a picture of it. Volume 10 has eluded me for years. I occasionally see it on eBay, but with a horribly sun-faded cover, and given how impeccable the front covers are on all these, I really want to have a nice quality version of it to kind of complete the collection. There was also a Volume 12, which had 3 episodes on it. It had The Secret of Omega Supreme, War Dawn, and something else, I can't remember. A Plague of Insecticons, I think. I had that volume briefly, but it had a big glitch in the middle of one episode, so I actually ended up selling it again, making note of the glitch, of course, because I'm always honest about things like that when I sell stuff. At some point, I'd actually like to get Volume 10 in the big box and get Volume 12 again. Volume 12 was the only one that was never released in a big box. All the rest of these were originally released in big boxes, but then re-released in regular size cases with smaller. But I like these because of the artwork. You know, the artwork is nice and big and bright and happy and wonderful. There were a few other Family Home Entertainment releases that I used to have but no longer have. One of the biggest ones that I was most proud of was this one, Transformers the Movie. This is the original Family Home Entertainment release of Transformers the Movie. I actually missed it when it was in theaters. Can you believe it? Me, a huge Transformers fan since day one, missed the movie in theaters. But to be fair, I don't think it was in theaters that long. It actually kind of bombed at the time. But as soon as it came out on VHS, I rented it and copied it with the intent to buy it once it became available for sale. And you have to understand something about the VHS rental market. It's not like it is now, where DVDs come out and they're automatically priced for sale at the same time that they come out for rental. No. With VHS, a new VHS release would be something like $100, $120. Why was it priced so high? Simply because they knew they could sell it at that price to the rental companies, make a ton of money from them, and the rental companies would happily pay it because they'd make it all back in rentals. And then a few months down the line, they would do what they call pricing it for sale, where it would actually be re-released to the general consumer market, where Joe Blow average like you and me could actually buy it for their own collection. So that's the way the VHS market worked for a very long time. It wasn't until almost 10 years into VHS that it actually became priced for sale right out of the gate. Things changed, I guess. So wanting to see and own Transformers the Movie, the only way to do that at the time that was economically feasible was to rent it and copy it. Since we had 2 VCRs, we were able to do that. But as soon as that sucker was priced for sale, I bought it. I wasted no time because I could not wait to have it in my collection, and most importantly, to have a perfect copy of it rather than a second-generation dub. So I bought that edition that I just showed you. The thing about that particular edition is it has the infamous swear word bleeped out. It wasn't until quite a few years later that we got the uncensored version, but we'll talk about that another time. Then the last Family Home Entertainment release that I owned was this one, The Return of Optimus Prime, which was the two-part story featuring, well, the return of Optimus Prime. It's funny, the back of the box kind of describes it as a sequel to the movie, but it really isn't a sequel to the movie, it's just the last two episodes of the third season, which followed the movie. The direct sequel to the movie was actually this story here, Five Faces of Darkness. This came out actually on VHS and Laserdisc. It was one of the few Family Home Entertainment releases that came out on Laserdisc. Sadly, I never got it because this one came out quite a few years later too, long after these releases. This was like the early 90s sometime. And I had always wanted to get the Laserdisc, but it was just, whenever I would find it, I didn't have the money for it or what have you. And I think I saw it in stores once and drooled over it. I was like, oh, Transformers on Laserdisc, the ultimate quality format ever. But unfortunately, it just never happened. Now, we've still got a ton of VHS tapes to go through here, and basically all I've done is given you a history of the Family Home Entertainment stuff. So we're going to break this up into two parts, and we will conclude our look at the VHS years of the Transformers next time. I really wanted to focus heavily on the Family Home Entertainment ones because they're the ones that I grew up with and they're very special to me. This was the first thing I ever collected in terms of home video. And having nothing more than an allowance, which I was already splitting with my comic book collection, it was no small feat to get these back then. I mean, I had to save up for them a lot of the time. And yeah, so they are very cherished, very prized possessions for me. And one of these days I will complete the collection, just to have it complete. And it makes for a nice display piece, I find, too, having all the volumes lined up on the shelf. So that's it from me to you for now, so we'll see you next time for the conclusion of our look at the VHS years. And then, at long last, we'll get into our in-depth, multi-part review of the Transformers 25th Anniversary Matrix of Leadership Complete Series Collection from Shout Factory. Until then, thanks for watching, and sayonara. But with so moving right along with Volume 2, they put, so moving right along, there was a clear continuity between those three, that second set of three episodes. So to me, S.O.S. So we're going to break this up into two parts, and we'll conclude